form. Did everybody get a copy of the minutes emailed out? Get a
Motion to approve.
motion second on the meetings. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Is there a second?
Yes. Yes, Chris and
Chris.
Bill and Chris. Sorry.
Wait, to see.
Treasurer report was handed out. Everybody had a chance to look at it.
Motion to accept the treasurer's report is presented.
Motion made, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Enforcement notifications, I have none. Old business, I have mutual aid plans on there, and I don't know if you want to talk about your.
Well, I guess, in an effort, we looked at the mutual aid agreements and some of the stuff that was going on with mutual aid. And we want to have a discussion about this, the protocol that went out, I guess. What would we call it?
We already have a second.
Yeah, we have a second motion for the procedure. We have a seconded motion to the floor. And
So
we'd like
this-
to have some discussion about it and see if this is something we want to do.
Yeah, what was just handed out, it was brought up at the EMS Services Committee meeting, and it was a motion made to bring it to this thing, so it was motion made and seconded. So basically what it is so everybody knows what to do with a mutual aid plan. If they come up with a mutual aid plan, they know who it goes to, how the approval works, the route it goes through, if it's approved where it goes, if it's not approved where it goes. I think Bobby did a great job on lining this out to make sure that it works out for everybody. So there's no question who gets a mutual aid plan.
This was developed. I looked at the current 1206 policy, and then I was given an opportunity to comment on a draft mutual aid policy that the state's working on, which we won't see for a while. But this was developed as part of that suggestion to say, hey, we're telling them to do this, but it's about as clear as mud. So we need to put in some type of flow chart. So that was the purpose of this, and it kind of fits what we're trying to do to provide some guidance.
So we have a motion made and seconded to accept this, so we're at the discussion stage. Any discussion on it?
There just may be some changes. We fine tweak it a little bit that we'll just bring back. And
Change it at each meeting if we need to.
I guess I would just have one comment, and that would be the third box where it says County EMS Coordinator and PSAP review documents. And I'll defer to Steve, but in our county, it would be the battalion coordinators also that would review the run cards.
Well,
If it goes to the EMS coordinator, he can designate other people to look at it.
yeah.
That language came right out of 1206.
Yeah, I know.
It's
Yeah.
a responsible party.
And that's what I was just gonna say, in other county-specific responsible parties, as appropriate or something.
I think the coordinator could involve who he wants to. I don't know if we need to be that specific.
I just know Steve's gonna get a hard time. Stuff.
Kevin's going to get the heart.
I
learned to delegate.
Kevin's absence.
No, he resigned.
He resigned, forget it. That's right, he resigned.
Right.
I think keeping it broad, each county's different, I don't necessarily have a seat at the table, but I do work with the sheriff's office on this, so I mean, each county's different. So I think keeping it broad like that the county EMS coordinator knows he has to take it to whoever oversees the PSAP plan.
I think it's pretty simple. It's clear. It's an ambulance thing, so it's EMS and it's dispatch who sends the ambulances. I would leave it as it is myself.
Maybe we could add / emergency management, emergency services, the county EMS coordinator.
I think the reason it says county EMS coordinator there, right, is because by statute, the county EMS coordinator has,
Sign it, yeah.
right, has the authority
Approve
over
it,
it,
yeah.
which does not include other members of emergency services.
Yeah, I know what Dave's talking.
Yeah.
It's going to change some run cards.
Yeah.
Down the line, yeah.
It's fine. We'll deal with our issue and stuck with that.
Okay, any other discussion?
I was just trying to make Steve's life easier.
Okay. that.
That's what Kevin's for.
Did you know when that hits?
I know.
I'll highlight county EMS coordinator.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, state council seat. We have to submit 2 people to the state council, and then the state picks one of the 2 we pick. We have 3 people interested, so I've got ballots here to hang out for everybody to vote. The people we have interested are Mickey Fornes, Scott Lampier, and Todd Reiser. Now, how do I want to make sure? How many? Is there any non-members here? Jeff and okay.
We're not voting members.
Yeah, so don't take one.
I won't.
You want me to just press it off?
Why don't you be the teller?
Do you want me to?
How many
Yeah,
are you supposed to
you
vote
tell
for?
us. You pick 2 out of the 3.
And then we send 2 names, and then the state chooses which one of the 2 they want.
The new state council lawyer does it.
Yeah, and,
He's friendly.
Okay.
huh? He's,
I watched the
Lisa
recording.
thinks he's the cute one.
Is he the cute one? I don't know, there's one lawyer that's really lawyer.
Oh, I've never seen him.
Oh, well,
My wife-
Lisa knows what he's there.
Well, then, I don't know,
Like,
if
no,
this is a
no,
new one,
yeah.
I don't know.
I would have
So
been.
what are you doing, a write-in for Tim Richards?
Select 2. Select 2 out of these, and then we send
Oh, I
2
don't-
to the state, and the state will pick one of the 2.
Oh, yeah, pass it down. Let's go. Your name's not on here.
Pass it to Alicia and she'll tally them.
Everybody votes.
Sure.
Just wanted to throw out a comment. Scott has made every state EMS council meeting for several years. Mickey is at most of them. I have not seen Todd at any of them, so. Just, that's my comment.
Where are we going with these? Is he-
Here, I'll just walk around.
So on my hand?
Yeah, he goes to REMAC.
Yeah,
REMAC, yeah.
I thought he went to see too.
Oh, you didn't get it yet? It's coming, okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
here.
Didn't want to
Yeah,
rush you.
Here, vote. But you are.
Okay, while she's counting the votes, we'll move on to new business. I have letters for 2 people to be appointed to the REMAC. Got a letter from the Upper Allegheny Health System. Jeff Seeley, I would like to name Dr. Philip Singer as our representative to the REMAC. Dr. Singer is our new Emergency Department Associate Medical Director. We feel he'll be a suitable candidate to replace Dr. Myers as our representation. Thank you for this manner. So do we have to vote on this?
Just do them both. Same
I would
time.
Do both
appreciate
same
that
time?
because that's what I was
Okay.
told I needed.
So we also have a second one here from Brooks Memorial Hospital. Dr. Kristen, and I can't pronounce it. Krozik, to be the REMAC representative for Brooks Memorial Hospital. And that's from the Director of Emergency Medicine, Andrew Cody. So I'd like a motion to appoint these 2 people from the REMAC.
I made the motion.
Second.
Bobby and Ron.
Good job, get your name on. Chris.
Any other discussion?
I don't want to be greedy.
I just fell away.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Question, is Dr. Meyer still on council?
No.
Is Dr. Myers still on our council? Jeff?
No. Why did you want?
He's on the back on the bylaws committee.
Oh, that's probably my fault.
Like, where's Myers' name?
Whoever looks at the back of the page.
I do all of
Okay, also in new business, we have elections coming up, so we need nominations for chair and treasurer from Allegheny County, secretary from Cattaraugus County, and vice chair from Chautauqua County. Terms of the current officers expire on December 31st, 2019. So I guess we need nominations at this meeting, and then the next meeting, we have an election. What?
I said everybody's head went down so no one can make eye contact.
I thought it was scheduled out here as committee. He's gonna come forward with names at the next meeting.
Did we have a nominating committee?
I thought we have nominated.
I'm not sure. I thought we were
Yes.
doing.
Well, it was
nominating.
supposed to be done in August,
Was it?
according to your bylaws.
But it
Well,
does
the
say
agenda
nominate.
says August, we're okay.
That's true.
Dan,
I propose that we take the 3 EMS coordinators from the 3 counties, make them the nominating committee, and they report back within 10 days, because we're behind already, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, because we have.
So that we can have an election in December. Sorry.
yeah, so we have a motion made and seconded to have the counties come up with the nominations.
Who seconded it? Tim?
Tim.
the only thing I would say is whoever you put in, they need to know that there is work to be done. It is not a title job. The treasurer has to do treasurer stuff, the secretary has to do secretarial stuff.
names we're gonna get.
Well, I'm just letting you know, there's a report that has to be done.
What position was Shaka County open for?
Vice chair.
Dan Infeld, okay?
Yep, got it. Second.
I've been chairman before, so.
It is a lot of work, isn't it?
Yes, it behooves us to pick somebody that hasn't been before.
If you like your trips to Ole.
Under the age of 50, yeah.
Give me a couple more weeks.
Hey, can you get us?
That's a great idea.
Hang on, we can vote on that motion.
So we have a motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? To have the counties come up with nominations within 10 days, and then it'll go through the email deal, and we'll have an election in December.
2 people.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Little delay.
That's carried. Sorry.
Put your hand down.
I got membership issues.
Okay. Go ahead.
Created enough problems.
Okay, just for the record, Bonnie Van Houten has Jeff Lucky as her alternate. I wasn't sure if we had done that before, it didn't make my list. We did do May before, it had to make my list. I'll update my list and get it to Alicia, and we'll get it out to you. We have an opening because
Amelia?
well, Amelia resigned, and we have and this is mostly my fault, I think. We have Priscilla Baines, who was nominated by the council from Chautauqua, but have not received her bio sheet yet, so we can't vote on her yet. I wouldn't want to. I will get with her to make sure I get her bio sheet. I talked to her, not at the last council meeting, but the one before, and I thought she was gonna get me that, but I haven't really followed up. I've been kind of in doctor mode the last 2 months, not around much.
There's some slaps around here.
See, Brian, I told you he's wild tonight.
We have an opening in Cattaraugus County. I do have an application from Brian Wilcox, who is a resident of the county. He's also a member of Ellicottville and Great Valley, and he works for All-Star as their clinical coordinator educator. He's replacing Ed Kors, who was an at-large member, so it doesn't have to go through the county council. So I guess I would make a motion that we accept Brian Wilcox. Somebody wants to second?
I'll second it.
To finish the term of ed.
Finish the term of ed, which is actually up. I don't know. I have to go check. I deleted that one.
Got a motion made and seconded to,
Who seconded it, Jen?
yes,
Getting into
for
the boss,
Brian
huh?
Wilcox.
Brian Wilcox.
Any other discussion?
Get with the boss, huh?
I think he was he's at large, so it does not need to go to the council. Yep. I just don't remember what year he's up, so it's that unfinished, whatever.
Okay, motion made, second discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Welcome, Brian.
third item would be, I'll read this. I would like to thank everyone on the council for allowing me to be part of our EMS leadership team. I find that my new position in emergency care requires more time in the evening than I anticipated. It's not fair to the council to be listed as member, not available to participate. Please let my email serve as my written resignation for my seat on the SWREMSCO council. I hope in future that I will be able to resume a similar position on our council. If there's anything I can do in the future to assist the council, please feel free to contact me. I wish you the best in your endeavors and continue to drive quality in EMS in our region. And that from Phil Wilson. So I would like to move that we accept that with regrets.
So move.
Second.
All in
You talk
favor?
faster than I do.
2 moves and 1 second, got it.
All in favor of accepting Phil's resignation with regrets?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. We talked about the alternates already. The last item I have are the 2019 expirations, and I will read them off. Bonnie Venhausen, she was an at-large. Kay Bushman was through the county council. So what I need is I will send the ones that are at-large an email asking them to affirm that they wish to continue or not. Whatever they decide is fine. But the ones that are the county councils between now and December 1st have to re-nominate them to continue. So Bonnie is at large, Kay is council. Suze Campbell is an at large. Chris Baker is county council. Dorothy Button is no, she's 2020, sorry. 2021, 2019, Bobby Kuhn is a county council position. Steve Cobb is a Chautauqua County Council position. Doug Conroe. So if I read somebody off from your county council, I need the county council to get something to me. Email is fine by the 1st of December so that we can reappoint those people or place somebody new in their position. And I will contact the at-larges and see if they wish to continue. And I'll let you know.
And who did Kevin here represent? When he resigned?
What's the question?
Phil
He's
Wilson.
2020.
Phil Wilson.
Who was Phil?
Phil was 2022.
Was he county or at large?
He's an
He's
at-large.
at large.
Oh, okay, so that doesn't need to go with the county then.
No.
So we have an opening for the.
So we have an opening in Chautauqua County to fill. It's in an at-large position.
Oh, but that should go to the county. Doesn't have to.
Doesn't have to.
Doesn't have to. but
Anybody
it
can
normally
apply
would.
for that.
Yeah.
Council does not need to approve it.
No.
Right.
If you find somebody great, but it's not a county council approval position. That's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
I'm sure it was 20.
And Ed course was 2021, so whoever, Brian Wilcox, will put him in for 2021.
Okay, we have the tally on the SWREMSCO representative. Mickey Forness with 21, Todd Reisner with 15, and Scott Lampier with 14. So we'll forward on Mickey and Todd.
Oh. Did you not get Carrie Parr's application? That to you a while ago. Sorry,
I don't recall it.
Cattaraugus County. Okay.
I didn't have it in my folder.
Okay.
That's his position, headquarters.
Oh. Okay, still on new business. Any other new business? Go ahead, Scott.
Mr. Chair, I apologize for reading. I just want to make sure that I have all the information correct. I'd like to express some concerns regarding the actions of the program agency on April 29, 2019. On Tuesday, September 24th, 2019, it was brought to my attention by the Lieutenant of the Sheriff's Office of Allegheny County and the 911 Center CAD Manager Ken Cottrell. He received an email with an attached intercept agreement that covers some of the Allegheny catchment area. This was the first time I was aware of the document, so I checked with the county EMS coordinator, Jeff Lucky, who stated he was aware of this agreement, was drafted, however, following a meeting to discuss the plan, he felt there was not enough data to act on the proposed agreement. I also spoke with Mr. Coons from Cattaraugus County, who also had knowledge of the agreement, but they had also taken no action and did not believe that the Cattaraugus County 911 Center had received the same document the Allegheny County 911 Center. I reached out to Mr. Major from the Western Regional Field Office of the Bureau of EMS, and he was aware of the agreement. However, the department's position is, as always on all mutual aid plans, should follow the current policy statement 1206 and be vetted through the county coordinator and the regional council. Following the review of the summary record meeting minutes of April 3rd, there was no action presented by the system committee regarding the approval of this agreement. The only mention of mutual aid plan was by the chairman in the brief absence of system chair Richardson, stating that mutual aid plans are an ongoing matter and would be addressed by the systems committee. In my brief review of public health law, section 3003A, it discusses the responsibility of the program agency to include facility quality improvement within the region, staffing the REMAC, providing pre-hospital education as approved by the department, and other activities to support and facilitate regional emergency medical service system. I feel that the program agency was completely out of line by forwarding this mutual aid agreement that did not follow policy statement 1206, and I personally feel that it was an underhanded attempt to allow a provider without operating authority to operate outside of their operating territory. It's my understanding that the program agency falls under the SWREMSCO and public health law regarding the operation and role in our EMS system, and I would ask that the matter be investigated and reviewed to ensure compliance is found, and if any violation of public health law or policy statement, the appropriate action be taken. And I've submitted that to the chairman in writing as well. I spoke with Mr. Richardson on the phone last week. There was a ALS intercept mutual aid agreement for the western portion of Allegheny County that was signed between Trans Am and All Star Ambulance, and it does not even close to meet the legalities of 1206. When I spoke with Jeff's office, there were some concerns that they bumped up to the health department regarding operating and all that. But come to find out, it was moved into our county by email from the program agency. And I think it undermines the entire process, the entire CON process that we handle and we work very difficult to maintain. And I'd just like it to be taken care of.
Yeah, I think one of the things that this new flow system is it clearly defines what's to be done with mutual aid plans. As far as an investigation, if we want to put out an investigating committee or something to look at it, or I'm not sure what.
Scott, could you maybe just go into a little more detail for some of us as to what the issues were or what happened? Maybe?
So, there's been a new fire on operating within your operating territory from the Bureau and regulatory. That's why we've seen a large number of CON actions and clarifications. The western portion of Allegheny County, prior to the implementation of the new BLS ALS policy in Allegheny County, was you could call whatever flag car you wanted to call, regardless of operating territory and who had it. Through lots of long meetings and screaming and hollering and carrying on, there was a policy developed in Allegheny County that says, is very clear about who should get authority to operate, and it's the someone with operating authority. So when that went into effect, subsequently Trans Am, who was interfacing in the western portion of our county, had an abrupt stop in calls or slow of responses because Medical Transport Service obviously has the CON for ALS in Allegheny County. So to circumvent, in my opinion, to circumvent that process, Trans Am and All-Star signed a mutual aid agreement for ALS intercepts to include the western portion of Allegheny County, so that Trans Am would operate as All-Star's mutual aid, because All-Star has operating authority in all three counties. However, by policy statement,
But they don't have a COI.
ALS, correct, and ALS intercepts are not mutual aid, if I am correct, by policy
Current
statement.
policy statement states that.
So it was a circumvent of the policy. However, it was moved into dispatch, and we have had two recent events where they've activated Trans Am, and when questioned, the 911 center, that's the document that they produce.
So this is an agreement between two commercial agencies, right? I'm just trying to wrap my head around. And how, so why is the dispatch center following that agreement then?
The dispatch center had the agreement for reference because it was forwarded to them. His initial comment to me was, well, how many times has Trans Am operated in Allegheny County? And I didn't have that data. So I asked, on the flip side, how many times has All-Star operated? As far as data goes back in the 911 center, All-Star has not operated on a 911 basis in Allegheny County that they have a record of. So I just, I personally feel like it was circumventing of the process, because the same agreement, unfortunately, if that would have been presented to us, that said, when all your resources are unavailable, we can call Trans Am, we would have probably signed it, because when all our resources are unavailable, we would expect somebody to know, that's what we're here to do. But that was never brought to the table, and that's why I feel it was a circumventing of the process.
I'm not the chairman. So look at me. I don't know what I'm doing.
You gotta take that leadership.
No, I am not in charge. I am on the nominating committee.
I'm a concerned citizen. Can I nominate Dr. Will?
I can add to that a little bit. We did have a meeting with Scott, myself, and the sheriff's office and the 911 center. They admitted more or less it was probably a dispatcher error that is not officially in the system. It's not part of our mutual aid plans. And a dispatcher did that. The case that we specifically talked about is an unusual case where the MTS is already on location, the particular agency was already on location, and an operator came on the radio from that other agency and said, I need another ambulance in ALS. And they dispatched the closest agency, they thought, so.
Well, that's not, the individual that drove, the individual complaint that drove my questioning of the actions of the program agency has no bearing.
Excuse me, all we did was forward an email and we CC'd the DOH. So please stop acting like this, we put this together.
You forwarded
An email and it
a
said.
document that was not vetted through the process.
There's not been a mutual aid policy that's been vetted.
Believe that was.
There has not been a mutual aid policy vetted at all.
Correct, but before you sent this, Allegheny County was in the heat of the moment of changing all this policy, and it went through, because to be honest with you, the agreement was signed in this building before that SWREMS meeting in April. So I'm just questioning.
It has nothing to do with the program agency, and it did get sent to the DOH on that same day. So we weren't trying to hide anything or trying to be any, all we did as the program agency is we would do for you, if you asked us to send something out, is we forwarded it out. So I think it's disrespectful to keep saying that the program agency, when all we did was our job.
It was colored by your authority to send that. The dispatch did not know that you didn't have the authority to send that, and it hadn't been vetted.
So the question would be is, who authorized you to send the mutual aid policy to Allegheny County?
All I did was forward an email that Todd asked me to forward, and it said right on there, if you have any questions or concerns, to contact Todd. All I was doing is forwarding.
So it goes back to my question is, because the ripple effect come back to us too, for what happened over there, because I have an agency that was dispatched who had a fly car that went, but we felt the repercussions of what happened over here back to us. So my question would be is, what authority does Todd have to authorize that? And I'm not picking on anybody, because we gotta make sure that this doesn't happen, because it could have been critical. So what authority does Todd have to tell you to send it to them to have them implement that program? None, right?
But
Right? I mean,
if you asked me to send something out, I would send it out.
I understand, but I have a heck of a lot more authority than Todd does.
Well, again, right, but we're just being,
I
we
understand
are
that.
supposed to be the administrative help.
But the overall picture here is who has the authority and who had the authority, if anybody had it, to send that out to make that policy for them. And truly was nobody. Todd does not have that. You don't have that authority based on what Todd told you. Okay, that'd be just like the cleaner on the street telling you to send that. There's no authority there. But I understand that. But what we've tried to do here was to make sure that policies were vetted and based on the information that was given. Because I don't mean to speak for Allegheny County, but the coordinator in Allegheny County didn't vet any policies because the data didn't drive it yet. Because it's still, I believe, it's still a work in progress. The same way with us. We're not just going to approve them just because we got nothing better to do. The numbers have to be there to support them. So those don't get pushed out. And I think it clearly says the coordinator is the one that approves it, correct? Mm-hmm. Anybody on the outside doesn't have an authority. So we have those issues. So that's my question, is to who authorized it to be sent. I understand you sent it out, and it is what it is.
Right.
But
and I
my question
to DOH too.
And that's fine, but that doesn't mean anything to me because you didn't have the authority to send it. Just like Todd didn't have the authority to tell you to send it. That's what I'm trying to get back at. That's all. Send it to DOH, that's fine. But they didn't bless it, correct?
They did not bless it.
Because it wasn't done the proper procedure.
The Department of Health's position from the get-go on this particular agreement,
Right.
okay, and mutual aid agreements in general, is that we clearly identify that mutual aid agreements are lacking across the entire state,
Right.
not just a
We all know
specific
that.
region, not just a specific county or the specific instance.
Right.
And we encourage it to be solved at the local level, all right, through the local EMS coordinator and the local EMS regional council. So the Department of Health isn't in a position to approve or deny an agreement of this type. You know, we are simply a facilitator of it, not an approval authority.
Right. Okay. I mean, like I said, answered my question.
Go ahead, Dan.
Todd pulled the records today, and since April of 2019, we've only done 8 intercepts, completed intercepts with Allegheny County. Speaking on his policies for our company is that if someone requests us, we go. If you guys have a truck closer, then say, hey, I have MTS 801 sitting in Cuba, then we should back off and let you guys take the call. But if they're not available, then I expect that card to continue to me because we need to do what's right for our patients. It's not about politics. It's about what's doing right for our patients. Number 2 is if we're going to fight about territories, speaking on behalf of Trans Am, I don't go up in the Yorkshire, Arcadia, or Yorkshire and Delaware area and say, hey, you guys can't go across our border because we don't have trucks available up there. So my answer is, as a trans employee, I expect MEMS, who I also work part-time for, as a Mercy Flight, I expect them to come and do those calls because I don't have the resources available in that territory at that time to do the calls. So I'd expect the same thing for you guys to say, hey, I don't have a truck sitting in Cuba. The call's coming out of Cuba. Why don't you go do that for us? Because we need to know what's right for our patients. And we can deal with the paperwork process in the future because we do need to rebuild this whole process. Does that make sense?
I don't think anybody's debating doing the right thing, which I think you're getting to. I think the thing is that there's a process that we need to follow when developing these plans. And part of that, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'd have to read through policy, is that preference should be given to an agency with
operating authority. Agreed.
However, you can, as I understand it, the EMS coordinator can make exceptions to that when there's someone has operating authority but clearly isn't going to be able to respond to that.
So that, and that is exactly the purpose of the vetting and quite
Right.
frankly, this flow chart.
Right.
And because the county EMS coordinator has that visibility, because you are creating an exception when this mutual aid policy goes through its full wicket, you're creating an exception to the public health law.
Right.
In that circumstance, so you're correct,
Right.
sir.
But that's why the process exists. And I think that, to your point, I think that it exists so that we follow it. I don't think we've ever looked at these as closely as we should.
Right.
But that's why it's not a matter of you're trying to do the right thing, but it's a matter of making sure that we do it the right way and that things get sent out after they've been properly vetted through the people or the agencies or the titles or the EMS coordinator positions, whatever it is, that have statutory authority based on the public health law. That's really what it comes down to.
Agreed.
Yes.
Am I mistaken, or is that?
No, I mean, I think exactly what you said is correct.
And take it one step further is we do have CON for towns and village of Cuba. So if Cuba calls us, you can't stop us from going there. If you guys are closer, I expect you guys to take that call.
And we've never stopped you from going anywhere.
Okay.
Okay, let's be clear, we've never stopped you, and we understand the rules of the CON process. When we sat down with the county coordinator, we didn't have all the resources in Allegheny County that we have today.
Right. You guys have done a very good job of
We added a west
redistribution of your
rig,
people.
we added a north
Right.
rig, and we have a south rig, and now we have a flex rig because we were warned by the Department of Health, if you wanna be in, you wanna say this is my territory and I'm gonna go, then you damn well better make sure you're going or somebody else is gonna come. So we did that, and when we did that, we notified the regional council that we had reallocated resources to the known problem area in the western part of Allegheny County. Shortly in between all that is when an email with a mutual aid agreement between All-Star, who has never operated in Allegheny County, and Trans Am that clearly states that we are going to, well, Trans Am and All-Star have portions of ambulance operating authority in common. All-Star has a portion of territory in Allegheny County that is unique from Trans Am and a significant distance from All-Star's ambulance garage, making it difficult for All-Star to render timely ALS intercepts in the Allegheny County towns of Houghton, Rushford, West Clarksville, Oliver, Richburg, Friendship, Belfast, and New Hudson. Nowhere does that say Cuba. And we understand you have operating authority in Cuba.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but my point is
Intercepts are not.
intercepts are not mutual aid. And
Right.
the intention here, to go back to your point, as we both know, was not to do what's best for the patient. Because if it was, this agreement would have said, medical transport service has a garage that is uniquely positioned, that Trans Am could be of better help. I talked with Mr. Richardson about it the other day. 305, not far from Sprague's, is in Allegheny County. Now, does that make sense that we go there on the first tone when Trans Am is probably 10 miles closer?
Right. Yes. Understood.
So
Right.
I'm not saying that this is our area and nobody else put in the sandbox. But what I'm saying is this was clearly an attempt to circumvent the CON process because Trans Am also sent out an email flyer to the agencies listed above here that said, if we applied for expansion of territory, would you support us? Just prior to this agreement.
Okay. Understood. Yes.
So I
Right.
think the facts are there, and the fact is that if this would have went to Jeff's office or came to
It
the
did go to
system
Jeff's office.
subcommittee
It did
to be
get sent to
completely
Jeff's
vetted,
office.
it would have never went anywhere. It would have died because that was the conversation from Jeff, Bobby, and Ed was, we thought this died at the meeting that the concerns were raised.
So.
So.
Okay. I just know that the old CON process or mutual aid process was that you had to have a CON for the territory. So, you want to speak? You want to hold on a second?
I'll finish.
Huh?
You finish.
Okay. Initially, you had to have a mutual aid agreement. So we talked to our lawyers, and they said that we can use the one from All-Star because that's because we try to do what's best for the people in the regions, whatever. So the only way you could get by your stance was either have a C1 for everywhere except for any Allegheny County except for town and village of Cuba. So we said we'll get a hold of All-Star that we can if somebody calls us for intercept, we can still do it legally. Well, the Department of Health turned around and says, well, you should apply for CON. So that's when they went out and applied for the CON or started the CON process for those territories that we routinely intercept with. Not trying to take your territory, but to facilitate services when you guys aren't available. But then since you guys allocated your equipment, we turned around and said, I think Todd backed off on that because you guys were doing a very good job of covering that area. But I don't see why you and Todd and all the entities can't sit down in the same room and talk about this. Versus, I'll throw a stone here and this person will throw a stone here. Why don't we sit in the room and say, hey, how can we make this better for everybody? That's what we should be doing.
So I'm just gonna, because I think we could go around, and I don't think we need to debate this specific topic, and Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, I
I don't
agree.
want to take your thunder, but
I think this is gonna,
I think the important point here is that an agreement between two commercial agencies does not circumvent the CON or mutual aid processes as laid out in Public Health Law 1206 or other policy statements. And I think as a regional council, we have the duty to make sure that we follow those policies and regulations to the T. And before anything gets sent out to PSAPs, dispatch centers, departments from the county, from regional council, program agency, who be it, that we make sure that they go through the proper channels and follow the policy the way that it's meant to be.
And if I can jump on that, now that we've adopted this, it should not go out from this council or the program agency unless it's followed this process. But
me?
So in terms of the complaint that was brought to the table, I guess I'm confused why the complaint is against the program agency. If they're putting the two counties in communication, it was sent to them. They sent it to in dispatch, yes, but they sent it to Jeff, they sent it to Bonnie, they sent it to the state. They got it to Allegheny County where it was supposed to be, where it should have then been dealt with. It sounds like it's a problem on the dispatch end of things, where if they put that into policy, or if they took that as a mutual aid agreement and decided to enact that, but it didn't go through all of the channels in the county first.
Program agency has no authority to send
They
the
send it
email
for
to anybody.
information
well,
only.
I guess
trying
I
to
would
get into
disagree
your
with
county.
that because the program agency, there was no policy by this council at the time on how these, if the program agency, and I do it all the time, I ask Alicia to send stuff out, that they are an administrative arm of this council. And I think at that point, all they were doing was their administrative duties. So I agree with you. I don't think we should be pointing at the program agency. We need to be getting the parties that actually put this together and sent it out and or didn't act on it when they got it, if not the program agency.
So the dispatch agency didn't know that it was embedded.
I understand that, but
that.
you can't hold the
No, but-
program agency responsible because they were doing what they felt was their contracted duty to the state in providing administrative services to the members of this region.
So if the program agency was acting as an arm of this REMSCO, the chairman of the council,
No,
assistant.
no, they weren't. They were acting in an administrative portion for a squad or a commercial agency within this region, which they are charged to do in forwarding things to the appropriate people. They also do the same thing with PAD applications. They get them, they don't vet them, they don't look at them, they just forward them to the state, correct? They do that. I asked Alicia to send stuff out like this training, and she doesn't vet it. She just does her administrative duties, and I don't think this was any different. So I think the beef is not with the program agency. I think the beef is elsewhere. That's all I'm saying. Let's not beat up the agency for doing what they are contracted to do.
Okay. Like I said, I think we adopted this policy, and I hope that makes it clear, and
Just step in the right direction. I gotta agree.
we'll move forward from there. Is there any other new business? Yes.
I was asked by Mickey to make a motion for the council to provide some help for STEMs for the CLI course that kind of put them in the hole a little bit. She was asking for the council to provide STEMs with $250 to help offset the costs because of the low enrollment for the CLI class.
The motion.
Yeah, motion made, seconded, discussion?
Is that budgeted? And I guess my question would be, is that budgeted, number one, and number two, we already give them $2,000 a quarter. I thought to kind of pick up this kind of stuff, so I just question.
I think the main issue is that, like Donna said earlier, there's 50 people, and that's the reason why she put the class on. And then,
Right.
I mean, it's not shame on anybody, but it's the fact that you go from 50 to 9, and that's she probably wouldn't have ran the class if there was that low enrollment.
I think Donna's the type of person that she will do her darndest to run a course if she can break even. I don't mind making a profit, breaking even. So I mean, it's. And we have to support this because moving forward, if we don't have instructors, the whole EMS system's gonna fail. Yes. Sorry.
Sorry, Alex.
Well, it's fine. I agree. Education is, especially instructors, I was probably one of the leaders asking for the course. And I'm thankful it happened. We don't want to set the precedence of running courses and losing money and the council making that up, because as a course sponsor, we lose money almost every course conducting regular EMT courses. We have to eat it. There's not that money coming back to us to hold the course. And I'm sure the other course sponsors can probably say the same. We're seeing lower enrollment. We're seeing higher course expenses. So the loss is real. We continue to do courses because we have to, but we eat that loss as a course sponsor. But again, education of instructors is important too. But I just don't want to set that precedence as say, hey, we're going to help. If you lose money, the council will bail you out for education.
And I guess to prevent it in the future, I would, if it was me, I would require a deposit. And if you come to the class and we get reimbursed, you get your deposit back.
Yeah, you complete the class.
Jeff?
I got one comment, just as kind of a side note, but Bonnie came back from the state meetings, and the state set up, it used to be 80% and 20% local, and it's at 56%. As Bobby said, we're losing money. So on people that actually pass, the refund coming back, it's at 50%. So the counties are paying 50%, and state is paying 50% for educational on those that pass. So we lose money on those that we don't get to the testing and those that fail too. So a side note, that was very interesting, and that's a fight we need to, there's consideration, Don, or something we can add to that. There's consideration trying to get that money back up so it's more of the 80 to 20%. But that might be something for future that will, us as county instructors, program directors, we're gonna need some assistance in that.
I think that, states suffer from the same thing that every one of you suffers from in your personal life and your organizations. Our income or revenue per se is not increasing. Our budget line from above is not increasing, it's rather decreasing, and yet the cost of doing business is increasing. So I think we see that across all avenues. Our goal is certainly to concentrate more on the education side. That's why you see the changes with the CME opportunities and the 4-year versus 2-year or 3-year situation and so forth. Those are all cost saving purposes.
I think budget-wise, after vital signs, we normally have money that's not used, so there may be some money left over from that could be allocated for something like this, from a budget aspect. We don't know that. Being vital signs is so close, it might.
Can we table this motion until after vital signs, see what the money left is?
I agree.
Again, I kind of reflect what you said before about setting a precedent. If somebody loses money on a class, what are we going to do when the next course sponsor comes and asks and says, I didn't have enough? Are we going to start reimbursing everybody? So
I just want it known it's not a program agency's responsibility to do this course.
I understand
It's
that.
a council's responsibility.
I understand that.
Okay.
We have a motion on the floor, right?
So we have a motion made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Well, we also have a motion to table it.
I didn't make a motion to.
You didn't?
No, I just said, could we table it?
Okay.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to evaluate the ability to refund the CLI course after vital signs. Expenses are done.
I'll second that motion.
We got a motion made and seconded to reevaluate this motion after vital signs, so it'll be our December meeting. Hopefully we'll have a pretty good count by then. I think we should with the rules.
That means so close.
Yeah. Any more discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Any other new business?
I understand there's a new person in charge of funding for the state. Is that true? Someone new in the office that finance?
You got a new finance person.
We have a new deputy chief of finance, absolutely. Chief
Is the
administration.
reimbursement of the vital signs going to still be
eligible?
Yes, I got that approved.
Okay, I just didn't want people to go and us find out that that was not a.
If you look at the document, there's specific things you can get reimbursed for.
Right.
And those were the specific things we were allowed as the council to reimburse for. We weren't allowed to do.
We can do hotel up to the GSA rate, which is less than what the hotels actually cost.
Correct.
And registration fees. Right.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't an interpretation.
They
that
looked
everybody
at
be like,
our, they had us redo the reimbursement form. They had a couple other tweaks of verbiage and approval, and they.
No, you're correct. They did not like it at first.
I just didn't want people to go and then come to the council and be like,
No.
well, we can't, something.
If you look at the form, it's different.
It changes the per diem rates.
Yes, it has to be per diem, and it didn't like that county council approval, because they don't have statutory authority. It's county council review.
So it was a lot of just words.
And it's all dependent on how many people go and how much they get reimbursed. So it could be a low amount. It could be-
Yeah, but it's only up to the GSA rate for the hotel, which I believe Buffalo is $104 a night.
And the hotels are like 160.
Still 89.
No, it's by month by city. So
I think it's like 109 for.
109 or 104 for Buffalo.
Yeah, you can go on the website, I do it all the time, so you can go,
Yeah.
it's easy.
I put the link in the instructions. So,
Okay,
yes, it was approved.
Dan?
I screwed up earlier. I didn't realize that we had 2 applications for the Cattaraugus County position. I did get an email in August from Donna. I clicked on the wrong link. And I thought, because I clicked on the blank link, and I thought the person hadn't responded, but she just emailed me. And we also have a second person, Carrie Parr. So we have Carrie Parr and Brian Wilcox that have applied for Ed Course's position. So, how would you like to proceed?
We only have one vacancy.
One vacancy.
Question.
Yes.
Brian Wilcox working in Chicago County for an agency. Could he fill the spot for Phil Wilson there? Yes, he's doing the same job that he's doing.
Historically, we have said that it was county of residence, but we have in the past made an exception for somebody that actually worked in a county and did not live in that county.
Is that an at-large position?
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
So that could be a possibility where we could appoint them both.
He's just checking the bylaws to see what that says.
Trying to.
You have the bylaws right there?
Yes.
Yes, so
Oh, yeah, right here too.
Oh, no,
You want to be vice chairman, don't you?
No, I don't.
you want to be on the ad hoc,
I second that.
ad hoc bylaw review committee?
Second.
I'm already on it.
Oh.
Hey, Steve, Bill wants to do it.
No, he doesn't.
God, you're not absent in December.
Okay. Saying nothing specific in the, it says, all members must reside within the geographic area to be served by the regional council.
So he lives within the region.
Right,
Yes.
regional area.
So that would be
So my remedy to the situation would be is that we move Brian Wilcox to the at-large position in Chautauqua County, and we accept Carrie Parr's application to Cattaraugus County.
And the at-large position in Chautauqua County does not require county council action in Chautauqua.
No.
Because it's at large.
So we have to go back and rescind the one that you did to get Brian in and do that, cancel all that out, right?
Well, what I just said is we'll move him from an at-large Cattaraugus to an at-large Chautauqua and appoint Carrie to the at-large Cattaraugus.
So that's a motion.
That's a motion.
Second.
So technically, we don't have to rescind what we did before, we just now
Just moved them.
made the move.
So we have a motion made, like Candace said. Any other discussion?
Just a clarification, does it state anywhere in the bylaws, and I'm scanning real quick, about how many at-large, where they're from,
It does, but that falls into, this falls into the area that the sport large for the county. Six council members.
You have
for
10
large.
per county.
Appointed from each county's EMS council, the
Six.
remainder appointed by
And-
at-large by the chairperson after recommendation by the membership county. Okay, so I guess it doesn't really specifically say.
No, and the intent from the state is that we have not only just people representing county councils, but we potentially have lay people, citizens,
Representatives
doctors,
of hospitals.
hospitals,
Anyone that's partakes and involved in or is a recipient of.
which is in
They
Gary's.
have us to broaden our base of representation.
And Gary is, let me,
Wow. Makes a nice t-shirt.
Gary is employed by physician group
University of
administrator,
Buffalo,
volunteer fire
MD.
department commissioner.
Former fire commissioner,
Yep.
she's been an EMS proctor, lived with me for
Where's she
25
now?
years. Pardon?
So she's a saint.
Call across.
Lives in Portland, New York.
Chairman, call across from.
What's that?
All in favor?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. What happened, do we, first of all, need to let him know that we want to move him? And second of all, since we're just saying that this is open and Chautauqua County hasn't had a chance to say anything, if they get somebody that wants it, then what do you do?
It's not the council, it's an at-large.
It's an at-large.
So it's through the chairman's decision.
And to Bill's point, he works in Chautauqua County. So is he really a Cattaraugus County or is he a Chautauqua County? We've accepted in Allegheny County somebody that did not live in Allegheny but worked in Allegheny. So the precedent has been set. He didn't ask for a specific position, he just applied to the council.
I guess that was my question.
That was my question,
Apply for a specific
yeah.
thing or is it
No,
just?
No, because if he thought he was applying for one county and we're moving him to another, is just my concern.
So it's just to follow the bylaws, and Bobby, you can check, but it's truly just Ed's decision.
But, he originally approached me about it, and he was looking for Phil's position, because he probably kind of took Phil's job.
Yeah.
So I think it works out pretty well. So my decision is it's
And
fine.
we actually kind of,
I didn't mean to put it, I was gonna have Bobby look, but.
Line 3, Bobby, on
and when I
page
talked,
1.
actually, when I talked to him, that's why he applied.
Under.
But he lived in Cattaraugus, and we try to keep him in the county which they live in.
So, Article 4, members, Section A, active membership. Active membership shall consist of not more than 30 appointed voting members. 6 appointed from each constituent county's EMS council, the remainder appointed at large by the chairperson after a recommendation by the membership committee. Not less than 1/3 shall be representatives, blah, 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 blah.
So technically it's his, but we've always voted on him.
Membership says makes a recommendation.
We voted to recommend that to the chair, and chair, I'm assuming you accept.
I accept.
Okay. Historically, we've always voted on him, but the bylaws do say it's up to him.
But we still have a motion on the floor and seconded.
Yes.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Any other new business?
Okay, any other new business? Okay, our next meeting, I got the date right on this, December 4th.
Can't wait.
At 6:30 here in Olean. Motion to adjourn. Chris?